You had to bring this team in short notice. You have this bumbling goof of an owner that, they still have their Twitter replies turned off, which is, I think, the only place in any sport where this has been going on now. And then you have the fumbling of anybody could have told you have to dive into the locals. You have to put the name on the jersey. So what is the incentive? What's the incentive to go above and beyond? Whether there's 5,000 people or 10,000 people, they do not care. It's all going to bottom out the red lines on the budget sheet. They're going to be in Vegas.
Q and DA, Q and DA, Q and DA, relax and press play.
Well, our first guest, as we delve into this bizarre love triangle over the first calendar year that's involved Oakland, Sacramento, and Las Vegas, is a guy that's got the ear of the fan and a microphone in front of the fans in Sacramento. He's as ingrained in that sports culture as anybody is in the marketplace, so I wanted to track him down. Carmichael Dave from Sactown Sports, 1140 a.m. Carmichael Dave, how we doing?
DA, it's good to finally talk to you. As I was telling you off the air, I'm used to you back in the day coming on, being my lead-in, which thank you for the ratings. I appreciate that.
We didn't sync them. That's good.
You've done a great job on this story. It's not a lot of national people have really picked up on it in the sense where they know what they're talking about. So as I said to you, a lot of people in the area, Northern California specifically, are very thankful. And there's a few that are very much not thankful to you for being so good at running this story.
Well, the ones that are thankful for me talking about this are the A's fans that always felt as though they got a bum rap, that it was all pinned on them, it was blamed on them, and it was far deeper than that. And that's how I feel. What's the quadrant of people that don't appreciate what I've said? Is it just from the A's organization, the A's ownership group?
Yeah, I think it's the A's ownership group for sure. Probably a few in Vegas. And then I would say in Sacramento, it's such a weird thing. This town has been so historically abused in the sense that the fans here are, and I know everybody says this, but the fans here really are second to none. They're so diehard. They're so loyal. This is a blue collar town, even though it's California. Sacramento is a seat of power in California, and I know California has a reputation nationally, both good and bad, but this is very much a blue collar town with people that just want to see winning. And you have an opportunity to get a baseball team, a Major League Baseball team in Sacramento, sort of. It's a big deal. But also, especially in light of what we went through 13 years ago when we almost lost the Sacramento Kings, I think it's made a lot of people a little uncomfortable bedfellows, if you will.
It's been a calendar year since the A's played in Oakland, their rightful place. And I wanted to delve into everything going on. I wanted to put together a multi-part series to dissect it all. So here we go. We're going to go Sacramento. We're going to go Bay Area. We're going to go Las Vegas and combine them into a multi-part series. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click on this button below me. You can also join to become a member for exclusive content. I partnered with The Last Dive Bar. I think we created an awesome t-shirt together, and it serves as a reminder that even if this team moves, it'll still be the Oakland A's to those who know. As a thank you for all the loyalty, all the patronage from every A's fan that's ever reached out to me, use code Oakland for 10% off your order at watchdastore.com. That's watchdastore.com. Use code Oakland for 10% off your order. This is part one. So when I rail on the A's leaving, I make this abundantly clear. I have nothing against the city of Sacramento for a lot of the reasons that you just mentioned. I watched from afar how you guys stepped up and saved your Kings. And before that, how many years of losing basketball, and that Arco Arena was still banged out, sold out, cowbells ringing. I mean, it is very clear how good of a sports town Sacramento can be and will always be. So to me, that's kind of an interesting part about this, is that despite all of the intense loyalty to sports and an opportunity, obviously, to put their best foot forward, we have not seen attendance reflect very much interest at all. So from your vibe, what happened this year to turn off Sacramento sports fans to the baseball team?
Well, let's start with the foundation that John Fisher's a snake, and there's the moral issue. So you've got, and there's some people that feel that way. Then there's the people that know he's a snake, but hey, Aaron Judge and other stars. So let's and we have this conversation on my show a lot, DA, about the term casual that gets thrown around, especially by the younger generation. You're a casual, and I don't think that's a pejorative term. You and I aren't casuals because it's our career and we're obsessed and we're a little psychotic. It's a little strange to put your emotions and so much of your life into a bunch of millionaires playing with balls. And that truly is what it is, and switching laundry every once in a while. I look at, when I say casual, I mean that in almost a jealous sense, that they're just simply people that want to go take their kids out to the ballpark and not drive 2 hours to San Francisco or an hour 45 to Oakland. Back in the day, they can drive to West Sacramento, a few minutes away, be home and have their kids in bed on a school night, and they want to have some popcorn and a hot dog, and they want to see Major League Baseball. And I don't begrudge those people that aren't into the politics and the deep waters of this whole situation. I think ultimately it's a really big ask in a minor league ballpark. The weather was actually unseasonably and almost record-breakingly low this year in Sacramento. Many fewer 100-degree days than we had last summer, for example. But even then, I think ultimately the sheen wore off a little bit, and you had your diehards, and that was about it.
Okay, but those casuals, which I agree with you, the world needs casuals and sports fans, because if we were all diehard, it would be a really angry, volatile place. So the casuals actually give us a bit of a buffer zone. Then they fill up stadiums because they want to go out and have a good night at the ballpark. Why didn't the casuals? I mean, the casuals don't know that John Fisher is a snake. So why didn't the casuals, as prices plummeted also from the ticket office, why didn't they snap them up to go watch the Aaron Judges, the Mookie Bettses of the world?
I think that's a good point. Sacramento, and this is from somebody that's born and raised here. This is my home. It will always be my home. So I preface what I'm about to say by saying that when you're about to crap on something, you have to throw your credentials out. Sacramento doesn't have the best reputation in the country. This is not a destination city. This is, I always say, we are not the Showcase Showdown prize and The Price is Right ever. You never see you want a trip to Sacramento. But much like a lot, we're not Detroit, but again, if people listening who are from Detroit or Stockton here, other places that don't have a great reputation nationally, they're always wearing their area codes as a tattoo on their shoulder. They're incredibly proud. I see so many people from Chicago telling me they're from Chicago, which does have a good reputation, and they're never there. They're always somewhere else telling me how great Chicago is. We have an immense amount of pride in Sacramento. And I think out of the gate, knowing that we were unfortunately willingly playing a tiny part in the A's leaving Oakland. And the reason I say tiny is because you and I both know if it wasn't Sacramento, it would have been Salt Lake City, it would have been Portland. There were other options they were going to leave. Yet we still made it easier for them to leave, and we can get into the weeds on the NBC contract and other reasons why it was kind of snaky. But on top of that, when I look at the standings, I see Athletics. I don't see Sacramento. When I look at the jerseys, I see A's or Athletics. I don't see Sacramento. They've tried lately. They unveiled an alternate uniform for next year that has Sacramento on it. I think they sold a patch or a shirt in the team store, but we take that very personally, because without the city names, without that association with your city, you're just watching teams play. It's the locality and the pride that really turned a lot of people here off, where you just really felt like we were a baseball Airbnb.
Well, and so that's really the crux of this, which is the A's organization never attempted to embrace Sacramento. They were already like, this is a way station, this is a truck stop, we're going to Vegas, and we're not even identifying Sacramento for the next 3 years. And as you said, they kind of came around toward the end of the year. Apparently they realized this, that ESPN.com article suggested that they did some market research and realized it. But I mean, it just was like, how tone deaf could you be right out of the gate Viva Las Vegas in the outfield, and we're not even identifying Sacramento by name. Did you sense that that was kind of purposeful snake oil selling that they always do for the A's, or was that just being tone deaf and, hey, good people in the marketing department just kind of didn't know what to do in this awkward situation?
I think there's a yes to a lot of what you said, and I'm not trying to be cagey. Let's dive in a little deeper. So when you look at how the A's handle their PR, right, on the surface, you go, oh my God, these people are getting paid, and in some cases more than you and I, to do this job, and they couldn't do it worse. Did somebody win a contest at an elementary school?
And that happens over and over and over again with this organization.
It really does. Then, I've known some of these people. I'm sure you've talked to many of these people that work within the organization. You get to know some of them, and they're not stupid. And I should also make the point, too, that we have the Sacramento Kings here, owned by Vivek Ranadive, who bought the team from the Maloofs when they were going to move to Seattle. And Vivek and the Kings are partnered with John Fisher and the A's. And you have a lot of people that didn't make it over from Oakland that were replaced by Sacramento Kings employees who are now doing double duty. And I do know that organization. I know almost every single person in that organization, and some of them I've known for 2-3 decades. These are good people. These are quality, functioning, high IQ folk. To what you said towards the end there, they just didn't know what the hell to do in this situation. You had to bring this team in short notice. You have this bumbling goof of an owner that they still have their Twitter replies turned off, which is, I think, the only place in any sport where this has been going on now. And then you have the fumbling of, anybody could have told you have to dive into the locals. You have to put the name on the jersey. I think their thought probably was, and again, I'm guessing, I don't know, that, well, we don't want to do anything to upset our Vegas folk. When it would take a 5-second conversation to go, if you do go to Vegas and you do open there, there's not a single person that's going to say, I was going to buy season tickets, but you had that Sacramento jersey and that offends me. It's a non-issue. It's a non-starter. I think John Fisher realized that he had his NBC Sports California contract locked in. I think he realized that they sold out all those premium tickets and did quite well, locking some of these folks, I believe, into 2-3 year commitments until the A's were to move to Vegas. So what is the incentive? What's the incentive to go above and beyond? Whether there's 5,000 people or 10,000 people, they do not care. It's all going to bottom out the red lines on the budget sheet. They're going to be in Vegas.
One of my closest friends is in Sacramento, and he said, like you did earlier, hey, you know what? I used to have to drive my family down to the Bay Area for baseball, but now it's in town. And even though I don't love the fact that it's the A's that we're kind of taking, I'm in on baseball with my family. And he went in for season tickets with a couple of people in the neighborhood and ended up with sticker shock, not only because they priced it so high and originally, but by the second homestand, it was like, oh, we're slashing ticket prices to get people in the building. And he personally was texting me like, this is insane. That we didn't make it 2 weeks and our value, we didn't make it a week before the value of what we spent has been undercut, torpedoed by the organization itself. And I thought, well, yeah, I would be really pissed off too. And that's not even about whether you like John Fisher or not or the move. That's just about, how could you do that to consumers? Was that something that falls into bucket A, where it's like, we don't really care because we got the money? Or is it B, good folks kind of led astray because they looked around and said, oh my God, we didn't get as many ticket sales we wanted, and now we got to move product?
There's a term called gilding the lily, where you're basically, it's just a fun way of saying a massive exaggeration. I think a lot of people look, you have an optimistic side, you have a pessimistic side, and the truth generally comes somewhere in the middle. I think there were a lot of people that were sold on things like, this thing's going to sell out. Sacramento's a baseball town through and through. This is a tryout for the future of Major League Baseball. Maybe the A's stay here. Maybe there will be expansion. A lot of this stuff was pushed either overtly or fed into the media and written about. And there was a little too much rah-rah. My partner in the mornings, Jason Ross, he went in with a couple friends and they bought season tickets. He and I, he very much understands, for example, I think he's the typical person more than I. He understands the I don't want to say hypocrisy, but the sniff of hypocrisy in what we talked about with us almost losing our team. But he also, mm, there's Major League Baseball here. He's a Yankee fan. He wanted to go see Aaron Judge, but also have a nice night out at the ballpark. He's had a wonderful time. But we would talk about it on the air, how what they paid for their tickets, as your friend did, was severely undercut, and you could get tickets that had a face value of $50 for $9 before a lot of these games started. So if now all of a sudden, if the organization were to drop ticket prices next year, yeah, right, you're going to have a lot of people stuck with their higher price tickets and pissed off. If they decide to raise ticket prices, they're going to kill their attendance because that price point was way too high already. So yeah, I think it's bumbling, but I think it was optimistic bumbling, Damon. I don't think it was malicious, and I think they highly overestimated the effect of traveling baseball, not the Sacramento Athletics, a traveling baseball team showing up here and be able to fill 81 nights a year. And by the way, a minor league, not a major league, a minor league ballpark.
We all assume that this still lasts another 2 years in Sacramento. Maybe there's something that pivots before then, but let's just assume. Does this survive 2 years where it doesn't get worse and worse and worse? Because if I'm in Sacramento, I'm like, well, I'm going to wait day a game next year if I want to go to a game, and I'll pay, like you said, $10 a ticket, and that's fine. And if they stink and it doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter. And I have really no emotional connection to it because they kind of screwed everybody off over in year number one, and I never kind of got in on it. I mean, by the time we get to the second half of year number 3, is this kind of like a disaster?
I think that's the single most fascinating question because I can predict, and you can predict a lot of things about this. What we can't predict is how the team's going to do on the field. Now, odds are, if we go by things in the past, John Fisher's going to continue to sell everything off and heartbreak fans and et cetera, et cetera. But here's where it gets interesting. See, he's trying to follow this Mark Davis mold. He's trying to move the team from Oakland to Las Vegas and watch the valuation go through the roof. And Mark Davis hasn't been successful on the field in Las Vegas, but a lot of the naysayers that said you're going to get all tourists and nobody's going to go to these football games, and no, they did. Baseball is 81 home games, and football is obviously 8 or 9 home games. It's apples and oranges. But what if Nick Kurtz ends up being a young MVP candidate? What if Jacob Wilson is a phenomenal hitter? What if some of these, what if the kid from the Padres organization who came over in the Miller trade, what if he turns into something? Where I'm going is, what if John Fisher actually decides to keep this team together and, God forbid, spend a little bit to try to peak when they move to Vegas? The point I'm making is, I can sit here and tell you that if the A's are this in a year or 2 years, yeah, you're going to see a slow slide of attendance. But I can't account for if this team is all of a sudden one of the surprise darlings of Major League Baseball next year with a young and entertaining squad, because we have to factor in the bandwagon. And every city has bandwagons, and everybody wants to see a winner. So if this team is in the wild card mix and the playoff mix for next year, that's the only factor where I could see it not being a disaster.
You mentioned the local television contract, and probably if people are watching this, they're probably keen on this. There's a lot of diehards that follow my videos that we do, and they know the machinations more than I do in many ways, but some might not. And for those that don't understand, there's this lump of money that John Fisher gets for having stayed in the quote unquote Bay Area that he could then use as revenue to spend on player salaries, etc. Had he gone for 3 years to Las Vegas, he loses it. Had he gone for 3 years to Salt Lake City, he loses it. By having one foot kind of out the door, but in Sacramento, he keeps a lot of that, but he's got to spend it or else he's up against violations in the CBA. You called it kind of a dirty game. So from your vantage point, what was that dirty game with Fisher and the television revenue?
Well, you outlined it really well. And as I said, if it wasn't Sacramento, it would have been somewhere else. So what I think a lot of folks here had to do, and I always want to be really careful, because I know how in this day and age, when things get clipped and when they get, they show up on Twitter, things can be taken out of context. You will never hear me blame the fans here. And to the point where I am not a journalist. I'm legit biased, and I ride for my city. I will never blame the fans. You're just like I'll never blame the fans in Oakland because I can empathize with them. The Kings and the A's have a lot in common, but it is a dirty game. And where I was against the team coming here, from my standpoint, is yes, they would have gone to Portland. Yes, they would have gone to Salt Lake City, but it would have hurt more. And what people had to do here is make the moral trade-off of, okay, they're leaving Oakland no matter what. And yes, we can stick it to Fisher a little bit if they go to Portland or they go to Salt Lake. But if they come here, yeah, the billionaire keeps a little bit more of his money, but we get Major League Baseball for 3 years. And now we get into a lot of city leaders talking about a tryout for expansion. Maybe the team stays here. I don't see how expansion's ever coming to Sacramento. Again, I love the city, but I'm pretty sure the Giants would have something to say about that. And the amount of teams in California have something to say about that. So you're being promised a very optimistic outlook, and ultimately you're right. It is dirty because Fisher spending is CBA required. He's not in Sacramento because he thinks it's great and he loves the rail yards and the neat trains. He's here because it saves him the most money and gave him the easiest move. And, oh, by the way, commute for a lot of people, good people from the Bay that still work here. So we know that. We're not idiots. And why are we as a fan base going to show love to somebody that absolutely couldn't care less about this place?
The Vegas component of this feels inevitable. But the one thing that I find very interesting is a lot of people in Vegas are doing touchdown dances, a lot of end zone celebrations for Vegas sports fans saying, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. And part of me is like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it because this guy can't get anything done. But more so, what exactly do people in Vegas extract as joy from ripping a team away and watching a fan base, A, in Oakland, be completely demoralized and broken, but also B, in Sacramento, turned off? Like, Sacramento had open arms saying, okay, we got baseball. This is cool. And in 1 year, they were like, you know what? This isn't so cool. What do you think it is about the Las Vegas, that quadrant of fans that's like, see, because it seems to be a very bizarre take if you're kind of like stomping around and saying, look, I told you so, to something that still isn't even a real thing yet.
Yeah, it's not, though. And here's why. It's actually incredibly not bizarre. And we can walk through it without getting too deep. It's just our society. And when you look at social media and you look at people reacting to a fumble in an end zone and sending instant messages threatening people's lives, when you see, let me go back to Seattle, Sacramento. Remember, the Kings were sold to Chris Hansen and Steve Ballmer. As funny as that sounds now, they were done. They were gone. And as somebody who's a little visible here, I had to see all over the place. Seattle fans, and by the way, when I say Seattle fans, I mean maybe 3% of them that were small but loud and that were doing touchdown dances, as you said, because we lost our team. They got their team. And I'm thinking, you guys just lost your team. You just went through this just a couple years ago. You know how this feels. My kids, my daughter started USC about 2 months ago, which is why I'm super poor.
Which is why you'll be working for a couple more years more than you wanted.
You're damn right. My kids at the time, she just turned 18 yesterday. So she was 5, my son was 4. And what I used to say is, we do all this fun, haha, Twitter stuff and social media and all this garbage. But when in reality, my kids are getting their basketball team ripped away. There were kids in Oakland that had their team ripped away. Now these kids, weirdly enough, imagine a 6-year-old who went to his first A's game in Sacramento this year who's going to be 9, or a 7-year-old who's going to be 10 when they leave. Those are very formative golden years we all went through as kids, where you formulate your fandom, if you will. It always comes down to the familial ties and what brings us together. Why I can walk into a bar in Sacramento with a Kings jersey and instantly make friends. You can go to Chicago, wear a Bears jersey, you know the deal better than I. So when you say, you're rightfully taken aback at these touchdown dancers in Las Vegas, I would submit back that I think that's an incredibly small group of people that generally don't get attention that they need in real life. They go online. Bad attention is better than no attention at all. Gives them a dopamine fix. But you and I both know people in Vegas. You and I both know people in the media in Vegas. Steve Cofield's a very good friend of mine, does ESPN down there and has been down there forever. And we have frank talks about it on the air and off the air. Vegas just really isn't into this. There's a lot more going on there. So it'll be incredibly interesting to see how they fill a baseball stadium 81 times a year.
And, Vegas is no longer the golden goose where all tourists go because it's this incredible land of luxury and fantasy. I mean, there's a lot of socioeconomic factors that are just having people just so, I'm kind of over Vegas. So that'll be a super interesting dynamic as well moving forward. I almost wonder if the A's are a little late to the party here, but you're right about a lot of people in Vegas that I speak to are like, I don't know. Do we need another team? Do we care about baseball here? So I want to finish up with this. In terms of going forward in Sacramento, I know there are good people that work inside the organization because they're not all like the John Fisher henchmen. But the John Fisher henchmen usually set the tone on things. Do you think going forward there's a level of humility that was learned from this year one in Sacramento? Or is it just, the people at the top of the organization are never going to, quote, get it. So you can't expect the organization to kind of act like they should or act like they would.
It's so tough. I feel so bad for these people because a lot of them, Damon, were already overworked with King stuff, and now they're stretching to both sides. And if anyone's ever been in a job where the person at the top is a complete and total buffoon, and you've got to go out and you got to sell his tickets to whatever, it is miserable. And I know that there's probably some people listening, maybe one or two, that go, well, then you got to quit. Okay, well, that, that's easy when you got kids in college and you got a house payment. It's not simple, and you got to move your kids out of that city to go to a different. This isn't abstract. This is real. So, I when you say humility, they're never going to admit they're wrong about anything. We just don't do that anymore in today's society. But what I think the Sacramento jersey is a small thing. But a step in the right direction. I think there might be some other things, they'll focus more. They'll have like a 916 day. They'll do stuff like that. Our area code, by the way, 916. They'll do some things, but ultimately, I keep saying it, Sacramento is an Airbnb for Major League Baseball right now. And it is an unprecedented situation where it's like a 3-year tryout. I'm sorry. It's precedented in basketball. You'll remember Oklahoma City, New Orleans, Katrina, which ultimately got OKC a team, and now they're the world champions. But that's not going to happen here. It's not the same concept. It's a weird situation, and for a lot of us, I do not care. I'm good if they're here. Be here, leave. Doesn't bother me. We don't spend a lot of time talking about them on the show. I'm a Sacramento Kings fan, and it bothers me that we've got some people in the Kings organization. Unfortunately, they've got their eyes on other things. We need to figure out how to win ball games here. It'd be nice to be a consistent playoff team in the NBA for once instead of being an also-ran. And it ain't been a good year. The Beam team was 3 years ago, brother. It has not been a good couple of years. So I'd rather focus on that and get these fans what they deserve. You've seen these fan bases. You've been a national host for a long, long time. You get calls from everywhere. I dive into one community. You dive into them all. And you know that the Sacramentos of the world, and there are other cities like this, when fans keep getting screwed, it's a sad situation. I just hope John Fisher at some point, I've always said this, gets visited by the ghost of sports future. And he realizes he still has an opportunity to sell this team and do the right thing. But you and I both know that ain't happening. Not with daddy's money.
Mm-hmm. Carmichael Dave, he's the man of Sacramento sports. Check him out on social media. Check him out on Sactown Sports 1140. It is awesome to finally catch up, my man. Thank you so much. This was great.
Remember, you got to return the favor. You got to come on my show now. You promised.
Whenever you need it. Whenever you need it. You let me know, buddy.
You got it, brother. Take care.
Thanks. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way you are notified when new parts new episodes of this series, Love Triangle, continues here on my YouTube channel. Make sure you are subscribed. You can also join to become a member for exclusive videos about this conversation, but other exclusive perks as well. And watchdastore.com. If you'd like the t-shirt Forever Oakland, use code Oakland at watchdastore.com for 10% off your order. We will see you for the next installment, the next part of Love Triangle. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time for part 2.